listening to Chrysalis Color, the podcast. Hello, this is Jorunn from Norway.
And Christine in Canada.
With a podcast about color analysis and how it applies to you in a practical way. We'll talk about how to use your colors to make your days brighter, your wardrobe more enjoyable, and your life easier.
We'll talk about topics that we find interesting, and we encourage you to submit your questions. A podcast listing is available at chrysaliscolor.com under the Podcasts tab.
Welcome to episode 32 of the podcast that's kind of becoming one of the more controversial voices in color analysis. But we're trying to be fine with that, aren't we, Christine?
Better than fine. Hi, everyone. Today's show is called Things We Get Asked or Wish We Got Asked. The questions that I think every color analyst has heard a few times, or those assumptions that people may have about what we do that we wish they would ask about.
Yep. Because we are all about bringing those things out into the light. Mushrooms are about the only thing that benefit from growing in the dark, and mushrooms that are left too long become leaves and a lot harder to weed out. So on to the questions.
Well, I think this has got to be the most popular one, which is, what season am I? So we're at a party and we've discussed what color analysts do, or color consultants, sometimes I call it that. We explain it first, and we explain how we just cannot guess people's seasons by looking at them. And the next question is, so what season do you think I am?
Yes. It is like the most common question I get at parties. Not that I go to that many parties, but it's kind of like that. Those doctors, who are pressed to offer diagnosis at awkward rashes and stuff at dinner parties. Super awkward.
Yes. And often that's the answer that tends to be believed. But, the answer is, the longer I do this, the longer I do color analysis, the more I believe in testing. And you want to know why? Because I've guessed by looking at a person and I've been wrong. And that taught me a few lessons. I mean, it's fine that, surprises are just those little taps on our shoulder that our beliefs don't sync with the world. The world's not cooperating. You thought this, but it turned out that. So that's fine. You just update your beliefs. If folks could ignore those guesses, right? You could go to the party and you say, oh, I don't know, I think you look maybe like a light summer. And if the person could forget it then and there, place no weight on what we say whatsoever, well, sure, I mean, I'd play the game. But what really happens is that folks do forget that it was just a game. They take the advice to heart, and I think they figure, well, at least I'm a little bit closer to my answer, when you're really not. If anything, I think you're a bit further away. I don't have anything to add to this one. You, Jorunn?
Well, no, but we do play these games when it comes to celebrities, and we look at somebody, like in a movie or anybody, and we say, oh, I think she's a light summer or whatever. Yes, so we do play that game, but to say that to somebody, guess face to face at a party, it's like, just like you say, people, we laugh it off and it's all games and fun, but I think they go home and they think that it's something and that they're closer to their answer, and that's wrong. It's just not.
It's not true. I mean, you don't know how to say, read the disclaimers. And another example I've had a couple of times has been with these YouTube videos or in conversations with people where I've said, I do not know by looking at someone, not in video, photographs, I don't care what you send me. I do not know until we are in the same room together. And often folks will say, and I think sometimes it's not real, they don't intend it, it's more of a slip of the language, but they'll say, now that you've confirmed the season, I haven't confirmed anything. Like I recently, did Lupita Nyong'o, and she could be a bright winter. That seems reasonable. I could see how she would be, but in no way does the video confirm it. And I get emails and folks will say, well, I'm happy you've confirmed it. Please don't take it to mean that, because I really haven't. So Yeah, I think we both feel the same way about that.
Yes, you said the word, so you told us she was. So anyway, I think we are agreeing on that it's not we're not happy to get that question at a party.
Yeah, I think you just kind of smile and say, I don't know.
Yeah,
and that's nothing else you can do.
Appointment. Anyway, on to the next question, which is, I can't tell warm from cool. And that is a surprisingly common issue. And what is our answer? I think we learn by practicing, maybe. And I suppose everyone can read the theory, like color theory, and we can see that yellow and red are warmer than blue and green. But I can honestly say that I understand that it's hard to tell, at least when you're comparing, say, reds, which red is cooler than the other, or blues, which is a cool color, but one blue is warmer than the other. And it's kind of tricky, don't you think?
My first thought when I'm asked this is, do you mean in yourself or another person, or do you mean in an item you want to buy? In a person, I can't tell either. I don't think anybody can. You got to compare people with known levels, known colors that are standardized through a range of warm and cool, and you're looking for specific things. So like question one, you got to have a good analysis. But if you're talking about an item like a blouse, I figure what you actually want to know is, should I buy this blouse, this eyeshadow, whatever? Is it the right coolness or warmth for me?
Yes.
Right?
Well, I guess comparison is the operative phrase here. You have to harmonize it with your fan, and because the answers are all there, it's all been figured out for us. We have our season, we have our fan, and if it harmonizes with that, then you're good. But I think also the question means that people are just interested in finding out, and my point is that you can only call a color cool or warm as it is compared to another color. So comparison is and training your eye. And I don't know, I think it's interesting. And I was kind of inspired by this because we were talking about this earlier. So I made a blog post about warm and cool colors and a quiz to help train the eye for nerds, color nerds like me, who want to kind of see how they do. And the example in that blog post, they're kind of picked from, all kinds of those true TCI fans. And some of them are picked cool and warm colors from the same season, because each season has a warm to cool range. But you have to compare and harmonize.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think of warm and cool as having any particular meaning until you put something else beside them. Is this red blouse warm or cool? Well, I don't know. Show me another red blouse, or show me a person of a certain warmth level, and then we'll decide. As I listen to you, I'm thinking of specific ways that I use the palette to decide warm or cool. I got a red blouse, and here's my color palette that is me and my colors. So now what am I going to do to decide if it's too warm or cool? One is that I'll separate the cool and warm strips of the palette with the fabric. So I'll look only at the cools with the fabric, then I'll look only at the warms. And so let's say you're looking only at the cool strips. If the fabric's too warm, you're going to see a clash. The cool colors might look too cold, too frozen, maybe blue. That won't look vital and healthy. It will look maybe like a bruise, blue in an unhealthy way.
And if the fabric is too cool, the strips that are red will look orange, kind of like a too orange lipstick.
Yeah, it's like spaghetti mouth, That's right. And it won't necessarily be every red of every strip that's going to do that, but some of them will suddenly look more orange than you expected them to. And don't be discouraged if it's hard to tell. Often I'll look at a fabric and it'll be neutral enough that I don't know if it's warm or cool outside the boundaries of a season. But remember that the colors in your season also change in two other ways. One is, are they inside or outside the light to dark range? And two, this blouse that you're looking at, is it inside or outside the soft to bright range? Because you're looking at all three. And for me, there's a lot of information coming at you. I mean, you get 65 dots all interacting in their own way. And so another way to separate the palette, besides just the warm strips and just the cool strips, is I make outfits. So I'll take 3 to 4 strips at a time, lay it on the fabric, and let my eyes pause on each color, which feels really slow and irritating at first, at least for someone like me. But it does become second nature, because you will see the discord usually in certain colors. One at least, it might be the darkest one at whichever end of the strip your palette works. It'll sit there looking like a piece of lead. It'll seem extremely heavy, like the end of the strip is weighted down. Or of the, let's say you have 6 colors in the strip, the middle one will suddenly be brighter, or it won't belong in the strip anymore. It will just be an outsider. And, you think, I started off with my attention divided evenly, but that thing there, what is it doing there? Like it was brought in from another palette, maybe. Or what can happen is the lightest colors of the strip are barely visible. They're really, really hard to see. The harmony in the whole palette is very strong, but 65 or more, there's just too much to see. And it's hard to be selective about getting the information you need, whereas fewer colors in a functional format you can relate to, like an outfit, well, that makes more sense. And you can see how when the tight harmony is disrupted. When I choose the 3 or 4 strips, I'll often include a yellow or green, because they can be a little bit more yes, no in which colors they might get along with. So let's say I would take one of the strips of the whites, a yellow, a medium lipstick, and then either a green or a blue. So I'm looking at 4 strips at a time, pausing on each individual color. Is that too complicated? You're looking at me like, what?
Okay. Are my eyes rolling back? No, I find it fascinating. It's just that it might be a little technical.
Okay, as I have.
No, but I like the idea of not doing the confusing whole fan thing, which is okay. Sometimes you can slap it on there and say, well, in my usual simplistic way, I say, does the fan look happy? Yes, no.
Yeah.
And that's what, but I like the thing about isolating a few strips and seeing if you can make outfits. And even if you would never wear green in any outfit, this is a fictional outfit. And,
100%.
and it's just to kind of train your eye. Yes.
Well, it's 100%. The other thing it teaches you to do is to slow down, because as you know from our training days, it's the same as in an analysis situation. Yes, get your first impression, 1,000% get your first impression. And don't forget what it is, but slow down after that, because we can jump to ideas, we can confirm things we believe are true or want to be true, or the client wants to be true. And you really need ways to slow yourself down to see what's really going on without judgment, just what's going on. And so little pieces, breaking the picture up into little pieces at a time, I think it really improves your accuracy.
Mm. So the original question was, is it warm or cool?
Yeah.
Anyway, but yes, the short answer is compared to what? And use your color fan and compare.
Yes, whatever it is, clothing, it doesn't matter, compare it.
So that was our answer. And on to the next question, which is, well, it's not exactly a question, but it's one of those comments that we kind of shrink back when we hear it. My Facebook group said ... Now this is one of our favorites. And there may be times when they are right, but how would you know? Now, I don't know, Christine, is this a woman thing that we're kind of vulnerable and it takes like so little to bring us down, and yet we ask?
I think like the season question at a party, I sometimes think of it as a form of information gathering. over and over, acquiring more and more and more reinforcement through repetition, maybe confirmation, maybe looking for more support. And there is a moment where we just got to move on from more reassurance to getting on with it. Otherwise, you're a little rattled all the time, as opposed to just picking what works and adapting as new information comes along, which I know you and I both do with both our colors and our style. We have a baseline that we're comfortable and solid with, but we bring in new ideas all the time, new styles, new colors. And so a way to try out new things without being pulled way off center.
Yeah. And I think if you really truly have like a niggling doubt about your color analysis result, well, it's easy for me to say, but take it to your analyst, not a Facebook group. I just know for myself, if one of my clients had doubts and such feelings, I would feel terrible if she didn't give me the opportunity to look again, or at least talk it over with her.
Yeah, indeed. And we know that our clients travel to see us, but I think that once we've been in the room with someone and seen how they react to color, we could cover an awful lot online and just settle some of those beliefs. What I wouldn't want though is to see the client again or have another visit and then go around again with the Facebook group, because the other side of that, right? There's a love of the sport. We've seen situations where it's kind of fun to either pit the analyst against the Facebook group or one color analysis system against another. It becomes maybe somewhere between a game and an addiction. And so also to say that we understand most groups are helpful, they're well-intended, they know and respect their boundaries, and they don't have any drama addictions. It's a minority, maybe though too prominent in my memory than the many constructive interactions that do happen in those groups.
Yes, because most members of Facebook groups are supportive and gentle with each other. They're not all trolls. And we do, women, well, all people, I think we want our beliefs supported and get our assumptions confirmed and to have somebody to celebrate our victories with. And that my choices are being applauded and affirmed by others.
Sure.
Yeah. But on the other hand, there might be someone waiting to shoot you down just because they can. And it's not right or wrong. And it's not even about you, perhaps. It's just them wanting an opportunity to advance in a backhanded way by pushing someone else down. There are such people.
Sure, or not even premeditated, but it's kind of a way to gather authority, maybe. Yeah, we absolutely assume that most people in these groups mean well. We're just saying that it's a dangerous thing to exalt the opinions of people who were not in the room. We all listen to other voices when ours isn't strong yet, but maybe also think of it like any download. You got to decide first how much you're going to trust the source.
Yes, well, they're either challenging a season or they're having opinions about an item that you bought, that you present digital images of, and you say, I bought this blouse, and then they kind of pounce on you saying, no, that's wrong for you. But I mean, none of those people who have those opinions were in the same room or have seen that blouse in real life.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, how often do you order something you saw in a picture and it's not what you thought? For me, 100%, in fact,
Yep.
or, 99. And yeah, I mean, often enough, right? Every color analyst meets a woman, finds her season to be X, the Facebook group or whatever group says Y. And what would have solved it would have been to ask them the right question, I think. Like, well, okay, if I'm bright spring, why did those lipsticks look so bright and so orange? Everyone in the room thought I looked like a cat lady, from the 70s. Whereas in my season, the analyst gave me the red looked so natural. Or, well, okay, then if I'm a soft autumn, why did my eyes have the least color in that palette? and ask for an explanation, a reason. Don't rush in to fill the space. Let it just be there. Leave the silence unanswered. With students or clients, when we come to the end of the analysis and we've decided a season in person, we get this rule. There are some seasons we still look at. One is any group they've been analyzed into in the past. And the second was any group the Facebook group says that they are, or says they might be, just to look at them. You got to lay those to rest once and for all.
That's really smart.
Well, we never break that rule.
True. I don't think I've ever had a client who has been analyzed something
Before.
else.
Yeah.
Before, or had that kind of an experience with a Facebook group.
Sure.
But I'm all for giving the client ammunition to kind of meet those criticisms, so that they know that if somebody asks questions like that, then they can say, well, if I am what you say I am, why did I see this or that? And yes, but we don't often know or remember how to ask the question that the group can't answer. Yes, and we as women, that goes for me too, we could be more assertive and be more confident and say, no, I'm not, because I saw that, and that's not it. And well, it is a lot to take in during an analysis, and we don't always remember.
No. And I get how it would be destabilizing. We don't expect you to really have these questions. We wish that you would or could, but yeah, it's hard to remember the details. And after all, it's our expertise that would come up with these questions. Why would it be yours? Just asking you to not give too much weight to opinions. Opinions and expertise can sometimes be on the opposite ends of the scale.
Yes, and those opinions would come from folks who have experiences in different color analysis systems, and some things don't translate. Like their bright winter could be your or our light summer, and I don't know. I've never. This is the only system I know and have worked in, so I've never kind of immersed myself into how other systems work, but I would assume.
Yeah, that's a really strong point. And I don't know either. I have no experience of other systems before being trained in SciArt, and nor since. I just have never studied them.
No, I haven't studied them either, but I've sometimes a customer that I've analyzed would bring fans that they've had from other systems, and one, she pulled out like 2 palettes from previous draping. So it's not true that I haven't had color analysis clients. I've had a couple anyway. So this one, she pulled out after we had gone through the analysis. She pulled out 2 palettes from previous drapings in 2 different systems from ours. And they had different names for the seasons, and we looked at them, and then we compared them to the fan from our SciArt system, the one that we analyzed her to be. And surprisingly, many colors harmonized. And it was interesting. So we agreed that there was a reason why she got those seasons and palettes in the other systems. And it's not impossible to understand the connection. But then, yeah, some colors worked, and other kind of looked strange. And well, we didn't take a lot of time, but it was kind of interesting. It's just an example of why people in Facebook groups might compare and contrast their systems palettes to yours. And it's kind of like an apples and oranges thing, maybe.
Yeah. I agree with you. I've had that experience many times. I can see why, I can see what they saw. But when I look at those color palettes from other systems, my attention isn't divided as evenly as with the SciArt based fans, but it's also what you're used to. I mean, we memorize our color palettes to some degree. And although theoretically we know you could put another 60 colors there and they'd all be great, to actually see it takes a little bit of adjusting. And I'm all for adding variety to the status quo. I find it great to broaden a woman's sense of her colors But yes, sometimes I look at those palettes and some of them just make no sense to me. And others are surprisingly a good match. We both saw something similar, the other analyst and I. We just maybe had different ways of interpreting it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, I'm looking at my notes, trying finding the next question. That's a good one. Very important question.
Yes, it is.
Is color analysis only for Caucasian skin tones? Well, if it were, I'd try to get as far away from it as I could, because really we're all made of the same pigments. They just come in different colors and appear in different places.
Yeah, it can look from the outside like a Caucasian skin tone type of industry, but I'm like you. If it were only for them, for lighter skin tones, I would walk away and I would never look back if it was depth of complexion that separated us. The colors about all of us, and we are more the same than we are different. A woman from Ghana might be the same season as Jorunn or I. But I get that, someone would say, well, how is that possible? How it's possible is she has more surface melanin, but it reacts to color in the same way, meaning too cool happens at the same point in that range of fully warm all the way to cool. Too bright, the same thing. I did a video on YouTube recently, link in the show notes, of course, about Lupita Nyong'o. And you can see the changes in the skin tone with warm and cool, just as you would with any skin tone or any age or any gender. And you see that Lupita would create a wardrobe with the very same colors as any woman of any skin tone in that same season. Bright winter was a possibility for her, but I would never confirm season from pictures, as we said earlier.
Yes,
but it does not change with skin tone.
That's true. But surely we are so different. So something must be different. What do you think?
Yeah. No. I entirely appreciate that. It might just not be what we think it would be. And students often ask about the analysis with people of deeper skin tones, what to expect or what the differences might be. The process and the ways of making decisions are the same. Sometimes it's easier to make decisions. The disharmony becomes more obvious. Like I'm thinking about pastel colors compared with icy colors. Pastels may be a little bit more permissive on lighter skin tones. People of deeper skin tones, it can be a little easier to see that it's just not working. And then other effects just look different, like a too cool color might look more ashen gray rather than blue or violet, or it might appear in certain parts of the face. Black brown eyes don't really change color so much, but the effects around the eyes, like shadows and strange eyeshadows, all that happens with any eye and skin color. And black brown eyes, even in fair skin tones, it's the same thing. Have you seen a person of color as a client, Jorunn?
Very few. But yes, some, just very few. And it just wasn't that, well, people are different, but the process isn't different.
Right.
There's a difference from drape to drape, just like with any other client. And that's what we do. We analyze drape from drape to drape, and we do this is better than that, and the skin changes. It's the skin, not so much the eyes. And so it's the same with people with less pigmentation due to illness, or having a lot of psoriasis, or people with a heavy suntan, a natural suntan, not the self-tanning chemical kind. You look different, but you analyze the same. You look too warm, too cool, too gray. Its steps are the same.
The steps are the same. That's right. And 90% of the decision-making process is the same, and the outcome is the same, and the wardrobe is the same regardless of skin tone. I think with students too, it's you almost have to calm down your mind, even when you're looking at men and you're used to seeing women. It's the same thing. It's different, but it's once you just move through the process very quickly, you ignore those superficial differences, and you're looking for what you normally look for as your cues and how you make decisions, and they're all still there. But two things do come to mind, and I really want to learn more about these, and they are about how the colors are used or applied. It's not about which season the person is in the first place. That stays the same. One is makeup. And I mentioned this in the Lupita video too, where I asked people, would you tell me what lipstick you think looks best? And then at the end, I mentioned two that I thought looked good. Lipstick, more lipstick than any other product, I guess. Always individual within a season, meaning you can take people of identical skin tones within a season, and lipstick is never going to be exactly the same.
That's
but
true.
Yeah, right. But when skin tone is deeper, the outcome seems to me a little more variable. It's obvious foundation is going to be different, but lipstick, it can look a little lighter or bluer than it would have on a person of lighter skin tones. And maybe it's about the color of the lips themselves being different. So the resulting color is going to differ. With blush, I might use a brighter color in the palette. But the line I have, the blush pigments are rich and pure, so the color deposit's pretty good. And so what do I do when I have a client of deeper skin tones? I start with the basic color for the season, because there's one that I don't expect it to be a perfect match on every single woman. I expect it to be very close to home, and from there I know how to adapt. So I'll start with the same one I start for every, let's say, dark winter. And if it looks too blue, as it can, and if I know that she tested closer to dark autumn, to a warmer season, well, then I would just move into the warmer. I would pick a dark autumn lipstick and see what that looks like. When you had your client, do you remember, Jorunn, did you use the regular makeup for the season?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I did the same. And it's the same with people of any skin color. Some people are in the warmer or cooler end, and then we pick a lipstick from the warmer or cooler end. It's the same. But with people of color, it's that fascinating thing with there's a difference between the upper and lower lips of women of color. And, is that a difference to celebrate? I think so. Or instead of using color correcting products to minimize the difference.
Yeah, I have no use for color correcting. Really, it sort of, in a way, contradicts the idea of just be who you are and you're fine. But I did not know that, Jorunn, about the difference in the upper and lower lip color. That's
you saw it when you started looking at photos, right?
Yeah, you showed me some.
It's
and it probably isn't everyone, or it has never really caught my attention before, but you did show me a photograph, and I saw it. Which is interesting. And I think it's beautiful. It adds variety. It's something very unique and individual. I think it's gorgeous.
It is beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. But I kind of think, though, would you agree that from having looked at that picture, a woman could very well just apply the same shade of lipstick, and it might look the same. The lip might look the same, or the two lips may look different depending on the opacity of the color, but it wouldn't matter.
Exactly. That's it. If you use a very opaque lipstick, it will cover anyway. And if you use a transparent, if you are a season that benefits from transparent lipstick, then it'll just add that fun difference.
Yeah, indeed.
Or it will keep the fun difference there.
I agree. I wouldn't exert myself to try to even them out. That's for sure.
Me neither. Well, anyway, yes, I would love to see more clients of different skin colors, and I would also love to have a colleague, another color analyst who was a person of color. That would be really great. We need more variety.
Yes, I agree. I've seen a few East Indian people, various ages and genders, Korean as well. The couple of East Indian people, I mean, when those women had their colors on and their cosmetics done, the people in the room, we barely knew where to look. It was a bit shocking, like we were kind of looking at one another with this, is this real? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Expression on our faces. And anyway, the second thing, I could talk about this for a long time, but the second thing that I think is different is cultural ideas about what looks good and how people want to look.
Yes. Now that is a fascinating topic. And I remembered when we started talking about this question, there was a really, really interesting exercise created by a journalist. Her name is Esther Honig, I think she's German, where one image of a woman was presented to Photoshop editors from different countries around the world, and they were given the task of Photoshopping the image to change it, to make it as beautiful in their eyes as possible. And there's such varieties in those images, that they sent back to her. She looks completely different. And
Yes.
we'll link to that article in the show notes so people can see for themselves. It's funny and it's interesting, and it just goes to show that beauty is really, really culturally dependent. Is that the English word?
Or influenced. But I think it's something to really respect, that how can I give her this information that would help her so much about her own colors, but also help her apply it in a way that she recognizes herself and feels well in wherever she lives in the world. I remember having a dark winter client once, very dark skin, and wanted to wear the colors of her culture, African, I believe. And they were very, very bright. She did not care for the muting of dark winter, and it's not that muted, but she picked up on it, and maybe it just wasn't what she was used to, and she felt unsure of how to create the brightness she wanted with those colors. I don't know, we lost touch, and I don't know if with time she could see that too bright, and that ability to express her culture and herself was getting a little bit lost. It was really just becoming a costume. And dark winter was also capable of more brightness than she may have realized, because you're world building with your palette. It's like being given a Lego set with 200 of each of your colors. It takes a little time to learn what you can build. I mean, there are literally hundreds of castles that you can build.
Speaking of different colors, skin colors, let's think about cultures too. I would love to have a client with a hijabi headscarf, because then we could analyze her skin, and then we could talk about, instead of talking about hair color, we could talk about, the right color headscarves that would improve her look.
Yeah, stunning. It would be stunning. Some of those colors just are not the most beautiful choices.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So we can help you. Anyway, so next question. Are the seasons evenly distributed throughout the population? And I've had this question asked of me a few times, and I think, but I don't know, I'm kind of jumping on every question. Have you noticed this? It's like, I want to answer this. Anyway, so I think I'll let you, Christine, answer, because you've trained analysts and they were from a lot of different countries. I think that there are differences between countries. And in my practice, I'm in Norway, I see substantially more of the cooler than the warmer seasons. So I see more winters and summers and a little less springs and autumns.
Yeah, I live on the eastern edge of Canada, almost falling off the side of Canada.
You could swim to me.
I could canoe. I would guess, if I look at the people around me, that the seasons are pretty evenly divided. I think it's more summers and winters choose to have color analysis done. But I do see images or speak with analysts all over the world. And I do think there are more springs or autumns in certain places. But I don't know if that's regional or clients selecting themselves. I'm sure that many places, though, would have a majority of winters.
It's interesting that you say choose to have it done. And that is because we may, the cross-section of people who come to see us, our clients, it's not necessarily a true representation of the division among people. And I'm wondering if that's why I see so few autumns, because autumns are so sensible and practical by nature that they wear their 3 colors at work, and they're not, they don't bother to come for a color analysis. And the ones I've had, the few autumns, none of them have been surprised about the outcome. they had such a good feeling for their season before they came.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they say, you know, okay, I can go back to whatever I was doing and just have this better lipstick.
Yes. Yeah, and maybe a little more color variety to bring it in.
Yes, a color variety, and not try to wear black. Anyway, on to the next question. How can people look so different with the same skin tone in the same season? It's kind of related to that question earlier about how could a woman from Ghana and Jorunn both be bright winters?
Yes. Color analyst and stylist Rachel Nakmias in Philadelphia once used this analogy in another context, but I thought it was brilliant. Imagine the palette of colors, 60 or 100 or 200, however many you have, cut up into individual pieces. Throw them in the air. However they land is all the people in that season. So one got the blue in the eyes, one got the brown, one got the gray in the hair, one got the red, but they're all coming from a group of colors that have the same properties. Or another of my analogies, imagine that you take your color palette and give it to an artist and ask them to paint 1,000 different faces. Could they do it? Well, sure they could. They could paint 1 million different faces. And then when you factor in different shapes, well, they could paint 1 billion different faces. They're always coming from the same paint box.
I love that image.
Yeah, I think that they're helpful, right? So that was our questions. And Jorunn, you want to move on and do a little bit of myth busting?
Yes, myth busting. I love it. Anyway, but first, I'd like to share something. And that is that I've started writing an online course about how not to wear black. And the response I've gotten has been really overwhelming. So it seems that wearing black is something people are really, really struggling with. And the people who are subscribing to my emails will be the first to hear when it's ready, the course, and we'll link to the subscription page in our show notes. But as a preview of coming attractions, let's do a little myth busting about black here on our podcast, shall we?
Yeah, but now I have a question.
All right.
In that way that my mind goes to these things. When you said, now I know you've gotten a lot of emails, you mentioned that, and people are sharing their stories and their experiences. And I'm wondering, are there questions about what's wrong with black, or is it about what to wear instead? Is there a theme to what their struggles are?
There are several themes, and one of the themes is, I really should wear other things than black, but it's very hard to find the alternatives. What other colors? Mm-hmm. What's my kind of black, and how can I bring black into my wardrobe? And then there are people who have to wear black for work, and also how can I work with that and make me not look like a vampire, and
interesting. So all kinds of questions.
Yes. But a lot of them are related to, I'd love to not wear black. It's very hard to not wear black because I don't know what else to wear, and that's
I mean, you can almost have a course for each of the seasons or group them, but you could cover a lot of territory in something very general too. I think you're probably still building it in your mind how you're going to.
I am, but I know there will be a chapter for each season, so that you can. It will be.
Oh, it sounds brilliant. I love it when we answer people's specific questions. So that's great. Myth number 1: if you wear black, you look professional. What do you think, Jorunn?
Yes, well, that's something we hear often from clients, especially before the analysis. They say, oh, please tell me I can wear black because I need to look professional. And so how do we feel about this? And of course, you don't have to look more professional just because you're wearing black. And I think it's a lot of things that makes you look professional, other that, of course, duh, choosing neutrals and colors from your palette will make you look more present and more professional. And I think something like to be immaculately groomed, that is makes you look professional, and to have a bit of well-fitting garments that are tailored to you, that makes you look professional, and to have high quality footwear and high quality accessories, that makes you look professional. And also from your palette, to choose the darker colors from your palette, I think that also lends like a formal touch to an outfit and makes you look professional. What's your take on this, Christine?
Well, now I'm thinking about this interesting question. What is it that makes an appearance look professional? Not so much maybe related to the colors, which differ for each person, so much as the mood that's being set. Meaning I'm looking for a person that I can take seriously and trust right away. So no caricatures, nothing that would be distracting or keep pulling my attention back to how they look. Nothing scruffy, well-fitting clothes, like you said, nothing too young or playful. Just someone who takes themselves seriously, I think.
Christine, tell our listeners about that politician that knocked on your door.
Oh, yeah. Well, so it's the evening, and I'm watching one of my favorite Netflix movies, and it's cold and winter, of course. And there's a knock on my door. And so I open this door, and first thing I saw under the overhead porch lights, it was dark out, were the black roots. So blonde hair, probably long blonde hair, and the black roots. So I'd seen the posters by the roadside of this politician. It was a woman. It must have just been done, because now the hair had grown out about an inch and it looked like two different people. And maybe I'm more sensitive or judgy than most, but my first thought was, you have fake hair. And so what I said was, no, I'm all good, thanks. No questions to ask. And she left never knowing why I pulled back. Nothing to do with wearing black. I think some people, politicians and judges especially, should consider not dyeing their hair, because you really got to come across as real. And I wish I could have said, 4 inches of dark hair can look like an ombre, but 1 inch, it's something about it just looks a bit not looked after or not real. And it's one of those times again when, if a woman could hear that, she'd get that little surprise of, wow, I dye my hair blonde, I want to look a certain way, but the world is not cooperating with me. It's not doing what I want it to do. So maybe I should make a different decision. And then I would have said, and also, hear me when I say this, dyed hair is not even in the top 100 great things about you. So maybe you're putting disproportionate energy into it, or the company of people who care about it, or you told yourself somebody cares about it, but it was in fashion 10 years ago. You're not that person, and the world's not that place. And for me, hair dye kind of does not endure over the years like jewelry. It's not one of those things that gets better with time. And politicians especially, and I know in your country as well, they really got to appear real and very much with the times. And maybe it's even a challenging career for women. Like, they really have to appear real. Do you think I've exaggerated, Jorunn?
No, never.
No. No, well, not necessarily never.
Well,
but in this case.
No, when it comes to hair dye, I will never say that you're exaggerating. But then again, it's because I agree with you. It's really about appearing real, and everybody should appear real. And if you're standing there asking me to vote for you to kind of change the society, it's just like, please make me believe in you. And if your hair looks fake, how can I trust the rest of what you're saying?
You don't look like you're going to do what you say you're going to do. There's this disconnect, right? I can't believe your message. So anyway.
That's true. Anyway, so we digress. It was all about black.
As we do.
As one does, which is so fun. Anyway, myth number 2, black is slimming. Now that, I would like to say, is a big, fat, hairy lie. And it's not because, well, if technically, black is a receding color and should appear more far away and smaller. But black is not universally flattering, and at least not on everybody. And why this focus on looking slender anyway? Bodies, they come in all shapes and sizes. And if all women ate exactly the same and worked out exactly as much, they would still be different shapes and sizes. And now you have hair dye, I have this. Wearing clothes that fit your body is much more important than if it's black. You don't look smaller just because you're wearing oversized, baggy clothing.
No, I can't tell you how many times I've seen summers wearing black and they somehow look expanded. And the clothing wasn't tight. It wasn't baggy. It was actually fairly tight, but that body part looked expanded. And then I had an interesting experience recently too, that black could make a thin person look thinner than they are if their own colors don't balance it. One of my YouTube videos, I'm learning a lot in these videos, was with Eddie Redmayne, the British actor. And I will link it, and I'll link the timestamp. He was wearing this black tuxedo, and then the other image next to it is in a blue suit, turquoise suit. And he looks it's thin in an unhealthy way. Maybe he lost weight for a movie. I don't know, but it's really noticeable that the black makes him look thinner. And I think there are so many other ways to look slimmer that are more effective. I mean, it depends on your season and body type. Some people can wear all one color. There's lots of ways of doing it. Do people still wear black to look professional? In cities, I think they do. I bet some people, everything in their closet would be black. Do they do that in Norway too?
Yes. I've worked with some designers at some point, and they were all wearing black. And I think it's a uniform in certain places. I mean, I think that New York City is one of the places where you stereotypically say, oh, they're all wearing black and lots of makeup. Some cities, some industries like design, architecture. I don't know. I think it's a fashion thing. They're trying to look avant-garde and edgy and modern more than professional. Anyway, but I'm addressing this in more detail in the course. It's
another myth about black. You see where these ideas come from, but they're just not quite right. High quality clothing is only available in black.
Well, this is something I've heard from my quality conscious clients, and they're looking for sharp tailored, high quality items. And yes, the stupid fashion industry and clothing manufacturers, they're using black for a lot of the staple basics in the high-end collections. But I think they're just making it easy on themselves because it's easier for them to just have everything in black. But there are alternatives. You just have to look a little harder and search a little longer and ask. And if we keep buying black just because it's there, nothing's going to change. If we ask for colors and buy the other colors, then they will catch on and change.
I think so. Yeah, it certainly is financially much easier for them to make to use one color, and I think the pressure does have to come from the consumer. I mean, sometimes you have to buy something, and sometimes your job requires it, but not always. And yeah, you bet you got to look a lot longer for other colors than black, but it can be done. And in the end, what you say, what we allow will continue. I could also see that black is a way to make poorly made clothing look more expensive. And styles, sure, more styles come in black than any other color, but it is a shopping habit. When I started out, I would shop with one rule. I am not allowed to look at black. I am not allowed to try it on. I'm not allowed to touch anything that's black. It really opened my eyes to what's out there and what's always been out there. Jorunn, before we go today, I'd love to hear about how your trip to London went to do color analysis. You've just come back, right? How did it go?
Oh, yes. I came back just couple of weeks ago, and it was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. How many clients were you able to see per day? Did you get a little holiday in now that we can travel more easily?
Yes, I did. I did have some time. But I could only see 2 clients per day because it is quite intense, as you know. So I have to make time before and in between clients, and then I go walking just to kind of freshen my mind.
Yeah. I walk a lot too when I'm traveling, or always. It sweeps out the mind cobwebs.
It does. It clears the heads. And so then I was window gazing and just kind of looking and soaking up impressions. And you know what? It was really special because I had kind of like an epiphany. Is that the word? Epiphany? It was something that just kind of dawned on me. I was walking and you know, there's ads everywhere, like in all big cities. And I was walking, looking at the ads, looking at the images of these perfect airbrushed images, and all these companies that are advertising like this, they're all selling like larger than life versions of illusions and dreams, and they're selling something that you're not and that you're just kind of hoping or dreaming of being. And in most cases, it's completely impossible to achieve it, but you buy the dream anyway. And there I was walking, I was coming from fresh color analysis experiences, and I kind of teared up because I felt so proud that what I'm selling is actually the real self. It's like went straight from analyzing a person, seeing her in her own colors, being a completely herself, and then out on the streets with all those ads. It just made the difference between our line of business and the image industry so clear. It's very emotional. And I think you, Christine, you've touched on this on a lot of occasions. I remember one of your things you wrote somewhere about color analysis that were different in that we're treating the client as a relationship, not a commodity. I love that wording.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, we buy the dream. We know how silly media images are, but they're irresistible, and we buy the dream because we don't know what else to buy. Where do you start looking? How do you filter through everything else? And maybe there are parts of the dream that are worth buying, but how do you know? So these images become what we compare ourselves to. I think they're hard to resist. But what you say, they're an illusion. And like all illusions, they have a kind of backdoor way of making us feel good or reassured. If the world could be that way, I mean, it's like a drug. And bursting the bubble, saying, those images are not here to help you. They're here to make someone else rich. Well, I mean, who really wants to be dragged back down to reality? Right? And they enlist us in this silly crusade because by going with the crowd, there's a built-in reward system, like for good behavior, you know, not stepping out of line. I know, I mean, we could talk about this for ages. They show us pictures. See, here I go. And they imply this is us. Like you're in the club or you're not in the club. And women are smart. They see through it, but we play along until we don't. And then we say, yeah, this has nothing to do with me. If that's a mirror, I don't see myself in it. I see nothing about me in that mirror you're showing me. And so some people turn away. I think you just have to play the game on your terms, and everyone chooses how they engage with media. I get nothing to say about that, but I think there's a middle ground, and you compare yourself to yourself last month or last week. Did you buy or try any items that were about you, not the trend, not the friend, not the brand? Like, it's great to look better than your friends, but I think what feels best is being better than you used to be. Right?
Yeah. And the fashion industry, they're all about telling us what we should like black, and more black.
Right.
And then telling us what should be seen as beautiful.
Right. Which is, you know, well, we all know what it is. And they attach this feel-good psychology to it. Like, this could be you if you behave yourself. And why does it work? Oh man, I'm not obeying isn't my best thing, but we buy. And we also know people have weaned themselves off it and feel better about themselves and calmer. And I think that's what we do is take people back to who they really are, to see themselves in a calm way and appreciate that. Jorunn, are you going to London again?
Yes, definitely. I'm going to offer appointments in London. Yeah. It was so much fun. And I've already had emails from people who missed out and want to be on the waiting list for next time. Possibly spring 2022, I suppose. I'm hoping.
Yeah, would you go to another city? I get a lot of emails from France.
Oh, that would be nice. And if there was no language barrier, I would do that. But London is very central, even coming from other countries in Europe, which they do. Yes, and I have a lot of subscribers on my email list from the UK, so that was kind of an easy first place to visit. But hey, I would go to many cities if I had enough people, on the list, committed clients.
Sure. Once you figure out how to do it, you get into one lineup at the airport or another lineup at the airport.
Yes. That's true.
Thank you, everyone, for being with us today. I really enjoyed this conversation. For those of you on LinkedIn, you may know that Jorunn and I have a series of short videos for women and men on business casual, where we show images of completed outfits, and they're on Jorunn's website and expanded into a series of blog posts. And announcement, we've just completed the full 12.
Yay!
Yeah, I loved the last two. We did Dark Autumn and True Spring. Did you post them on the same day or right around the same time, I think? And we did them we did them together. And it was so cool because they're two warm seasons, but you really get the vibe of how the look is different when you see the completed outfits. So Jorunn, will you add the links to your LinkedIn profile to the show notes?
Yes, I can do that. And I've also gathered all the 12 videos in one blog post, so that you don't even have to go sifting through LinkedIn posts. And we could add a link to that too in the show notes. And to our dear listeners, if you have controversial questions, please ask them, because we love them and we'd love to talk about that, whatever you have on your mind. And thanks for listening this time, and see you. No, we won't see you. We will hear you next time.
Yeah. See you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.